this is another of the interview series. Today we'll be doing some mock interviews, but I didn't receive anyone that wants to put themselves forward for the interview. But anyways, we'll go as it take it as it goes. But before then, I'll just give a brief overview, just in case you're watching this as a recording, and then just for anybody that would like to put themselves forward, just one or two. Don't have to be a lot, just one or two is enough to give you some background on some things you might want to put in mind while answering questions today or as interviews. So it's just like an addition to whatever you know. So I'll just go through some few slides, and then we ask one or two people that want to put themselves up for interview. Is that fine? Good. Thank you. So as I said, today is a mock interview. It's nothing serious. You are not being judged. Nobody's judging you. We're judging ourselves. You know, if you a student of the Bible, he said, if we judge ourselves, then we won't be judged. So instead of us waiting for a time that somebody will judge us, let's judge ourselves right now. That's what we're doing now, mock interviews. And that's why it's important for us to be prepared and not just hearing these questions for the first time. Most questions that they ask us at interviews, they are questions that you must have heard once or twice at other interviews. So it's important when we practice them and get our hands dirty, our minds prepared. It's just like we're going to the gym. The more you go to the gym, the stronger you become. So I'm just going to run through the structure. We have just introductory slides like this, and then we have one or two people that will ask questions. But during these slides, I will give us an example of questions that will be asked. I'll expect you to answer those questions, and then we'll also give you feedbacks. So not everybody won't have chance to allow everybody to be interviewed, but we all can learn from any of these interviews that we had, so we can all share our views, maybe if we have experiences. And so this session is for not only aspiring business analysts, but because I'm a business analyst and it's easy for me to use that as a basis. So it's also good for other professionals too. But if you're an aspiring business analyst, or you're a professional that wants to transition into business analysis or into IT, generally the structures of interviews are usually the same, but the questions might be different, depending on who is interviewing you and the context. And it's also for experienced BAs look to refine their interview skills. Maybe you're experienced, but you've not, maybe you've been working for some years, you've not interviewed for some time. You're expecting to attend some interviews. So this for you too. Also, if you are preparing for BA interviews in tech, finance, insurance, etc., or maybe it's not only BA, as I said. So anyway, you see BA, just put your role there. If you're a tester or a product owner or scrum master. Okay, so just pardon me for using BA. It just works better for me like that. Okay, so the types of questions that I will be throwing forward, and these are usually type of questions that you get at interviews like this. We have behavioral questions, we have technical and methodological questions, you have scenario-based questions and case study questions, stakeholder management and soft skills questions. Okay, so that's what most questions will that you meet anyways while doing interviews. And those are some we're going to walk around today too. Just ask one or two around these areas, or three or four, wherever. We have a lot of questions that I've written down. So it will be based around that. But while answering those questions, I will advise that you use the STAR method. as much as possible, because if I ask you about gap analysis or I ask you about requirements, or whatever, um, we all I know you know what gap analysis, I know you know what requirements are, I know you know what Scrum Agile is, but I want to see how you've used it, before your experience. So I will expect you to, if possible, use an experience you've experienced in the past. Use the STAR approach: the situation, describe the context, the task, what's needed to be done, maybe what you were told to do or what you were assigned to do, and the actions that you took and the results. And don't forget, I always tell my students, when you talk about results, try as much as possible to use quantifiable results, like maybe 20% increase in XYZ. You helped reduce cost by saved the company 10 million, 5 million, 100,000 pounds, so let's try as much as possible to be able to quantify the results or the impacts of the action you took while doing that. So don't forget the STAR method as much as possible. But you don't need to be saying, so I'm going to use the STAR approach. So I'm going to start with situation, with task. Is no, just have it at the back of your mind and let it guide your response. So as I said, we're going to go through some behavioral questions while asking you. Um, the behavioral questions will be like, tell me about a time you handle conflicting stakeholder requirements. So I'm just giving you some expo right now, So I might not ask you all these ones, but just to prepare the ground, so because it's not an exam. So we're trying to get the best out of ourselves. So an example of behavioral question 2 is, describe a situation where you improved a business process. Have you ever dealt with resistance to change? How did you handle it? Then technical questions could come in form like this: explain more scope prioritization and how you've used it in a project. It might not be more scope, it could be gap analysis, what is a use case diagram and when you would use it. And another technical question could come in form of, how do you ensure requirements are complete and testable? Don't forget, when you are saying this, don't forget that the work of business analysts, and I'm sure this will also align with other professionals, such as Scrum Master, Project Manager, Product Owner, there's a primary thing that they expect from you. Like business analyst is all about clarity. And when you are doing your work, it tends around that of, I've told my students many times, what you do tends around that of research, analysis, documentation, and presentation. And while you are doing all this, you use different tools and different techniques. So when they say technical questions, it has to do with the techniques that you use as a business analyst, the techniques that you engage to do your work as business analyst, and the tools that you use. So techniques are how you carry them out. Tools are what you use. So when answering questions, always, why using the STAR approach to describe, putting in context, telling a story, you also want to mention the tools and techniques that you engage while doing that. That's what you make your answers very professional and engaging. Also, we could have some scenario-based questions. It's always the time. It's always about how the interview goes. So sometimes you could have answered some questions earlier, and so I might not need to ask those questions again. So it will not be it won't so it won't be a form of repetition. If you've attended a lot of some interviews, sometimes when they ask you, like, maybe tell me about yourself, and you start talking, some things that they wanted to ask you, you might have mentioned it while you were telling them about yourself, so they might not bother to repeat those questions again. So as I said, so it's not that we're going to ask all these questions. It's just to get you in the mood, to get you in the vibe. But sometimes you could have answered some questions that we intend to ask you, or the interviewer intends to ask you, and they could just keep that because you've done that. So we also ask some scenario-based questions, like how would you get a requirement for a new LMS. LMS is learning management system. Another one is imagine a client wants an AI-powered chatbot. What steps would you take? How would you validate requirements with multiple stakeholders? Don't forget when you are answering these questions, usually the interviewer, it's not that they have some answers written down that they expect you to say the way they've written them down. But although there are some times that they expect there are some specific answers they want from you, but it's not that they've written it down. They want to listen to how structured your responses, how composed you are, how you're communicating, how you are delivering it, so and then finally, before I say this last one, I just want to mention this one before we go on. Okay, let me just go through this one, then I'll mention what I want to say. Let me just write it down so I don't forget. Okay, good. Yeah. So you'll be asked to review interview questions, to answer real interview questions, sorry, and then could give you feedback on clarity, structure, and impact, because that is what I'll be looking at. How clear your answer is, clarity, the structure, as I told you, how you structured your response, and the impact. How impactful it is. Okay, so also give you tips for improvement and confidence building. Now, common mistakes which I want you to bear in mind as you're answering this question. So no, I'm just trying to prepare your mind. Um, you don't have to over-explain and then lose focus while you are doing that. Just go straight to the point. Don't forget, your interviewer most likely is going to interview maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people that same day, and sometimes they could get bored. So just go straight to the point and then deliver. Don't you Another things you also have to avoid is not showcasing business impact, i.e., your achievements, what your involvement was, what impact did you have on the business or in the project, and lack of structure in answer. Be structured when you're answering your question. Like I said, for example, using the STAR approach is a structure, that you have. Let them they might not see the structure, but they will feel it. They can see as you're answering those questions. Your structure could be, once they ask you a question, you could define it. But I normally tell my student, don't bother to cram any definition, just explain. So if you don't remember what a definition is, they might not even ask you to define this or that. They could say what is. And so when they say what is, they are not really asking for definition. Explain what it is. Give an example of a time you used it. Tell a story. That could be your own structure of answering question. And that's how I do mine. Okay, I explain it. I tell them a time that I use it, things like that. I put it in context. So have a structure how you want to answer your question. And then another thing you want to avoid is not tailoring responses to the role. Let the response you are tailoring, let it go to the role that they've advertised. Always bring them back to the role that is advertised. Always bring them back to the role that is advertised. That is why when you want to go for an interview, make sure you've read the job description very well and you've researched the company very well. And then always avoid weak stakeholder management examples. Okay, so the final thoughts I'm going to give you now is, number one, as I said, always research the company and tailor your responses. But of course, we don't have any company today that we don't have any job description. But let's just assume you're working in real life. I'm just saying, for those that are watching, will be watching this recording later on, and for those that will be using it as a prep, always research the company and make sure that your response is tailored to what they want. For example, if they're advertising for data business analyst, you want to be hammering more on companies times that you use data to, while you are doing your work, or maybe if the main the main aim is maybe a CRM, business analyst, customer relationship management. You want to be hammering around that side so that they will know that those things will be ringing at the back of your mind. Because if you've done something fantastic but does not ring a bell to them, you might not look like the best fit for them. So sell transferable skills effectively. Okay, so if you have some transferable skills, sell them very well. Practice storytelling and using metrics. Storytelling, once they ask you a question, give an example and tell a story about. I'm not saying you should be saying once upon a time. No, that's not storytelling we're talking about. We're talking about how you used it in a real life scenario when you worked at XYZ company, ABC company, and what happened. That's what the metrics is. Key metrics is, use key metrics is, and let them be hearing those things often. Okay, like gap analysis, use case diagram, techniques, be mentioning them. Then maintain confidence and clarity. Follow up with interview, follow up after interview with key insights. Okay, so thank you. So that's it. We now go to the session. I'll stop um, these slides right now. I can make it available to you if you want it. Okay, so do we have one or two people that want to present themselves to be interviewed? Or before we do that, do you want to ask a question based on what I've said? 2 minutes if you have a question, and then we go. We're almost 30 minutes into it now. Okay, I will assume there are no questions. So how many people do we have? Just maximum one or two. Will Tolulope choose, or will they put themselves forward, or how are we going to do it? I think I saw Joshua raise his hand up now. Hey, why is everyone quiet? I hope I'm not the only one in this room. Okay, Joshua. Yes.
Well, I'm just nominating myself for the role play.
What did you say?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello,
I can hear
good evening,
you.
everyone. Oh, okay.
Good
I said
evening,
I'm
Joshua.
just indicating for the role play. You mentioned earlier that you wanted people to nominate themselves
Okay.
for the interview.
Okay, that's good. So who else? Is it only Joshua? Any other person? Zainab, I can see you are here. Who else do I have there? Okay, Joshua. Let's go for you. One minute, Joshua. I need to set up the questions. Joshua, do you want to put your camera on, or you don't want to show your face?
Well, let me see. I can do both.
If you don't want to, it's fine.
Okay.
So welcome and come and answer the question. So Joshua, what are you interviewing for today? Business analyst role, right?
Yes, sir. Business analyst.
Good. So, good afternoon, Abi. Good evening,
Good evening.
Joshua, and welcome. Thank you for taking time to meet us today. My name is Lanre, and I'm a business analyst at Rockitech. I'll be leading today's interview along with Tolulope Perkins. So before we begin, I want to give you a quick overview of what to expect. This will be a structured yet conversational interview where we will discuss your background, experience, and key competencies as they relate to this role. We're also keen to understand your approach to business analysis, stakeholder engagement, and problem solving, as these are critical to success in this position. So, we'll start with some questions about your background, followed by technical and scenario-based questions, and then wrap up with a chance for you to ask us any questions you might have. Joshua, your hand is still raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, my hand is raised because I missed a part of your brief. I
Okay.
couldn't hear a part of your brief.
Am I loud enough, or do you want me to speak louder?
You're loud enough, but after
Do you
you
want me to go over
mentioned
it?
you IBA with Mr. Tolu Perkins, I had not been able to get across until I had to raise my hand.
Okay, good. So I'll just go over it all over again. Okay, that's fine. So if there's anywhere that's not clear to you, you could indicate, and I'll pause and go over it again. Thank you.
Okay.
So I said that I'll be leading today's interview along with Tolulope Perkins. And I said before we begin, I want to give you a quick overview of what to expect. This will be a structured yet conversational interview. We will discuss your background, experience, and key competencies as they relate to this role. That's the role of a business analyst at Rockitech. We're also keen to understand your approach to business analysis, stakeholder engagement, and problem solving, as these are critical to the success in this position. We will start with some questions about your background, followed by technical and scenario-based questions, and then wrap up with a chance for you to ask us any questions you might have. So just that you know, I'm a business analyst. Tolope, my colleague, is a Scrum Master. So, Joshua, does that sound good to you? If you are ready, let's begin.
Yes, that is okay. A pleasure to meet you and Mr. Tolu. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Joshua, tell us about yourself.
Okay. My name is Shegun. My name is Joshua. Sorry. Please let me just. Hey. Okay, so my name is Joshua. I am a business analyst for about, let's say, about 1 or 2 years now. Yeah, so I have my background in administration or business administration, but now I work as an HR. And as an HR, oh, please, let me just take a minute. Sorry.
It's fine. You could take your time. You can breathe in. You can take a glass of water if that will make you comfortable, and you can start again. Do you want to rephrase the question if it's fine by you?
Yes, you can rephrase the question. Sorry. I'm
Okay.
just
So
having a bit of anxiety today.
it's
Sorry.
fine. You don't have to say sorry. You've not done anything wrong. Can you tell us what you've done in the past, where you're working right now, and how that relates to your role here?
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, like I said, my name is Joshua. I have been privileged to work in different industries, and currently I work as a business analyst. All right. So my career journey had started as an administrator into HR and health and safety, but now I'm a business analyst. So I'm responding to what you asked me to tell you about what I've done before and how it relates to my current role now with your organization as a business analyst. So, as a business analyst, what I have been able to do over the years is that I have been able to identify business gaps for a number of clients that I've worked with, especially optimizing their business process, technology integration, and data driven decision making. So, one of the examples was my first place of work, where even though I was in an admin, but it became the foundation for my business, my interest in business analysis, because I identified that the business organization was regularly a engineering contracting firm in a downstream oil and gas in Nigeria. And typically, there was a lot of wastages within the organization, and our processes were not optimized. We were doing contracts on an average of 6 months, contracts that we should conclude in 1 month. So what I did was looked into the data of the organization and looked at our business process, especially our BOQs. Our BOQs stipulates that we do our projects within a range of about 5 million and above. And typically, at the end of most projects, we usually have inefficiencies or these project delays that I've mentioned, resulting into losses. We were completing projects in 6 months, and this completion time meant that we're spending more than usually that we had proposed or had in our BOQs to organizations. So for me, this helped me to understand that I could help the organization in optimizing its process. So what I did was mapped out what the organization needed, collected data by going to our stakeholders, especially our suppliers, looking at what the organization needs in terms of pipe, cabling, wires for every filling station we're building, and then made sure that we had contact lists. And for every BOQ that we had for that organization, once we get the contract, I make sure that we get all of the materials on site, especially mapping out across Lagos or across Nigeria, where we worked with over 300 and something total filling stations. So what I did was make sure that we have a supplier close to the next filling station where we're working. So material supplies were always there. And with respect to human resource that we need, which was another component of our inefficiency, what I did also was being able to ensure that people worked either overtime and get paid for that overtime. So at the end of the day, I was able to achieve a result where for that organization, for the year 2018, most of the projects we had about 25 servicing projects at different organizations. For all the 25 projects that we had, I was able to achieve that at least 20 of those projects were completed on scheduled time for the project. And we were able to also save money, at least a minimum of about 1 million on every of the projects that we did. So this is just one of the first instance of example of what I've done and as a business analyst in a formal work experience. Will
Thank
it be
you.
okay if I share more, or would that be enough for
That's
now?
fine at this instance. Thank you very much. Well, anyways, going forward, once I didn't tell you, once I raised my hand up, I'm just trying to signify that you should try to round up your answer. Um, you've spent 5 minutes answering that question right now. This is like a feedback, not as an interview. I'm just giving you quick feedback going forward. Try to keep your answers below around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, you understand that,
Thank you,
Joshua?
sir.
Good.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Please avoid saying sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Lanre.
Good. Okay. So so that I would have loved to. Okay, let me go to the next question before I give you feedback on that. Okay, so but going forward, I want you to be calm. You're not being judged. You're not being paid. You're not going to be arrested. Take your time. Let me give you a quick advice to what is what I do when I go for interviews. The worst thing that could happen to you is that you won't get the job. Is that right?
Yes.
Good. So you will not be arrested, you will not be detained, you will not be fined, you will not be, So take your time, relax, and don't fidget. Drink water, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. Relax. Okay? Good. Let's get back to the interview mode. Can you walk me through your approach to gathering business requirements?
Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. So typically for gathering business requirement for me, typically focus on why. So I'm somebody who usually is in love with using qualitative approaches as much as quantitative approaches. But the focus for me is why. Why is that problem there? Or why do each stakeholder think that they want this particular thing, or what is their opinion? So why is usually something that guides requirements gathering for me. So for most requirement gathering, I prefer to have either conversations, preliminary conversations, through interviews, scheduled interviews, typically unstructured interviews, where I would like to elicit more information and get the feel or the opinions, and specifically the reason behind those opinions for each of the stakeholders. So that's my approach to stakeholder gathering, to requirement gathering.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very good. That was timely. You used about 2 minutes for that. So let's go to the next question. I'm just saying, don't forget my time, mentioning time is not part of the interview, just to give you a quick feedback. So, what business analysis techniques do you use most often?
Okay. All right. So typically, business analysis techniques are used based on case to case, but I would give a recent instance, which is for an organization that's had a problem with process optimization. And for this organization, what they had was, it was a manufacturing organization. So for me, I typically go for a BPN, a business model process modeling and notation. That's an approach that I usually go for because it allows you to really have a good understanding of what is their current state, especially what's their current problems, inefficiencies in that process. And then you can then look at what technology can you integrate at different sections and optimize or be able to see new results for that organization. So business process modeling and notation, it's one of my go-tos in terms of business analysis method.
Good. Very good. Thank you very much. Good. Your timing too was good in that. So I have another question for you. Just a follow-up question for that you said, that you answered. How do you employ gap analysis, or what do you know about gap analysis? It's a technique that is a common technique in business analysis. Have you ever used it before, or have you ever done gap analysis before?
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, gap analysis is a, let's say, must-have skill, or it's like a prerequisite for any business analytics role or situation. It's important for me to be able to assess. So I have used the gap analysis before, and it's important to be able to take a current assessment of the organization, which is where are they, or what we can call the as is. What is the current situation with the firm, especially with peculiarly to the business problem or the gaps that the organization or myself had identified as a problem, and then be able to say what is the desired state, which is the to be state. So gap analysis typically is just a tool that allows me to tell my project owners that this is your current state and these are the current gaps or situations or problems that I've been able to identify. Then these are the desired states that you would like, and then validate what they think they want, and then be able to have requirements or benchmarks towards them achieving that. So that's entirely how I deploy the gap analysis.
Okay, thank you very much. So you mentioned what they want. That sounds like the requirement. So how do you ensure that requirements are complete, clear, and testable?
Mm. Okay, so with respect to that's what you've just asked me. It's majorly about saying how do I validate requirement with my stakeholders, because I am go-to method for that is the Moscow, which is that I am able to set in stone by having a conversation with the stakeholders and be able to say what is their must have, what is their should have, and what's things that they think would not be required. So that way, I usually deploy a Moscow approach to validating requirements from stakeholders. So essentially making sure that whatever requirements that we come up with is essentially what is needed.
Okay, so how will you differentiate between, have you heard of this term invest before?
Mm.
It's an acronym
Well,
in requirements. Because you mentioned Moscow now, so I was going to ask if you have an idea of what invest is and what's the difference between invest and Moscow. They are two different acronyms. Uh, do you want me to define or explain, expatiate on what invest is, and then maybe you've heard it, maybe you could have forgotten about it, and then maybe you might want to rephrase that answer. Would you like me to say what invest is?
well, I recall had come with the terms invest, and typically invest usually comes to play in terms of user stories.
Okay, so what is invest?
Okay, so invest means that user stories are independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable.
Okay, so if I can rephrase that my previous question, so how do you ensure that requirements are complete, clear, and testable?
Okay, so invest as an approach is a, I think from your question, it's an approach that, well, it didn't come to mind earlier when you asked the question, but I can reaffirm that yes, in breaking up my requirements into user stories, after ensuring that I use the Moscow to say, okay, these are the requirements that they want, I could go further using the invest now to be able to have criteria for my user stories. And that's a connection between utilizing invest and the mass call approach.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Joshua. Requirements. We're still on requirements because work as analyst borders around that a lot. You agree with me, right? So, what is the difference between functional and non-functional requirements? Or can you give examples if possible?
Okay, so functional requirements are, well, the best way I'd come to do a dichotomy for functional and non-functional requirements is that functional requirements are more like requirements which is customer facing. So what I mean customer facing is that it helps the customers, it helps at the front end, it helps the customers use or engagements with whatever solution that I'm bringing in. But while non-functional requirements are more of system requirements, and so in giving an example, is that so if I have an order fulfillment app as a solution to a client's problem, so maybe a manufacturing business, the functional requirement would be that I want that the customer, in setting up the user stories, I want that the customers should be able to specify what they want to order. Maybe my client is a socks manufacturer, so that people who are going through or client or customers should be able to make orders in terms of this is the size of socks that I want, and maybe the color, maybe the pattern of designs in the front end. But non-functional requirements would actually be more of requirements along my business model process, which would be an example of I want that the app should be stable, or when they see the interface, they should be able to see clear segments of what they want to pick. The colors, pattern, or palettes should be able to come up in order after they selected the size and all. So those are examples of non-functional requirements.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I wanted to ask you one question, but you've answered that. And you've mentioned user stories. So how do we approach creating user stories and acceptance criteria?
Okay. So earlier, we
Let me rephrase
have,
that question for you.
yes.
What's the format for user stories? What format do they come in?
Okay, so the invest model actually specify what format user stories should be, because I might be wrong, but
You
user
said you might
stories,
be wrong. Are you
well,
sure you are wrong or you might be wrong?
I'm not sure, but I
Sorry?
believe that invest allows you to have clear, concise user stories.
Okay. So maybe I'm not clear enough. Okay. What are user stories?
Okay.
You could take your time. If you've forgotten, we could come back to it if you want. I can go to the next question, or if you want me to give you
Okay, you
an
can go
extra
to the
time, we
next
could.
question. Right
Good.
now,
Okay.
I know
All right.
functional user stories are just
I know sometimes at interviews, you could have this moment that you could freeze and not remember. I'm sure from the answers you've given before, I'm pretty sure you must have encountered user stories before. We're both business analysts. Let me just maybe I can help to uh, bring them to a memory. Their formats are like in this format as a user. I want to do this so that I can do that. The user role or the action you want to perform and what you want to achieve. They are like simple description of a feature from the perspective of a user as user stories. So just
Thank you
as you
so much.
describe that user, as a customer, I want to receive an order so that I can track my, you know, purchase, something like that. Does that sound familiar to you now?
Yes, very familiar. So thank you so
Good.
much for helping to
You,
jog my memory. I
yeah,
appreciate.
you're welcome. Yeah. Does that bring to mind acceptance criteria?
Yes,
Okay.
which is
Do
why I
you?
mentioned invest earlier.
Okay. So give me an example of a user story and give me an example of an acceptance criteria that aligns with the user story.
Okay, so you gave an instance now. So
Give me an example of a user story for login for a website, for login for
okay, for
Facebook.
logging in for Facebook. Okay. All right. So a user story, like you jogged my memory, is simply a very clear, concise story of a feature, a function, or let's say functionality that I want to achieve. So in this case, you're given an instance of logging in into Facebook. Now, so if I were to write a user story, I would say that the user would typically, for most websites, you have the password and
Just go
the
straight to the user story. Don't bother to describe again. Just
okay,
go straight
okay,
as a
all
user,
right.
XYZ, blah, blah, blah.
So as a user, I will be required to put in my username and my password. Then I will be able to log in.
Okay. Well, let's go on. That doesn't really fit in perfectly very well, but I'm sure you have an idea. Maybe you might need to brush up some, later on. Okay. Thank you, Joshua. We have a few minutes to go. We're in that area right now. Do you have any experience? Let me ask you one question about agile methodologies. So, what experience do you have with agile methodologies? Hello,
Yes, I'm
are
with
you
you,
there?
Larry. Yes, I'm with you.
Uh,
I'm trying to just put my thoughts together.
you did get the question right.
Yes.
Or do you want to rephrase it in another way?
You asked me if I'm acquainted with agile methodology.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So some say, or maybe let's have a discussion. Some say agile is a methodology, some say agile is a way of thinking. What do you think? What's your thought about agile?
Well, agile is both a way of thinking and a methodology.
Okay.
Right. So I got my first acquaintance or my first interaction with agile methodology while working with a team to develop two features for a company's website. First is the About Us and their event page. Now, so with respect to agile methodologies, user stories are, like you have mentioned earlier, at the center of working in agile systems, because agile systems require that you have stand-ups, and instead of having like traditional project management processes where it's more like a waterfall and we do one thing before we move to another thing, the philosophy around Agile is that you have a list of requirements, and then you can create user stories, which allows you to be able to move all of those into production. So an instance or a situation, like I mentioned, is creating, enhancing a feature for a particular website. So what we did was that we had no.
Hello?
Yes. So
Would you like to take a break, Joshua, for like a minute or two before we go on?
yes, please, I can do that.
Okay, let's give a minute break. It's 11:02 now. We'll reconvene by. Did I say 11:02? Sorry, beg your pardon. I think I am
This is
as nervous as you are.
10:02 in
We're in the same
Nigeria.
boat, right? So it's 9:02. We'll reconvene at 9:03. Is that fine?
That's fine. I could take a
Good.
minute.
Good. So maybe you could start by answering that question when we come back. Just take a minute. Thank you.
All right. So yes. So
Okay, welcome back. Yeah, you can go ahead.
yes.
You should be able
Yeah.
to do that in
So
like a minute now. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. It's already a minute. So I took a pause while explaining that one of
Yeah.
those situations where I had my first encounters with agile methodology was working with a team that we had to develop some features or component of the website, which is like the event page of the website. Now, so typically, like I mentioned earlier, when you asked what I thought Agile was both a method and a way of doing things, and I mentioned yes, so I reiterate that yes, Agile for me is both a way of doing stuff and a method, a way of thinking around doing stuff, which is a philosophy and a method. So within this team, we used an agile project management tool, which is the Microsoft Azure DevOps. And majorly it was a cross-functioning team. And we had on board a developer, business analyst, and Scrum Masters. So the Scrum Masters provided the workflow for most of what we needed to do. So we had sprint planning, daily sprints, sprint reviews, and retrospects. So also on that project, we started first by validating or eliciting requirements from PMOs on what they wanted as events, and then we also validated uh, these requirements, and then we moved those requirements into sprints. So for each sprint, it runs for about 2 weeks. And within each sprint, we had a sprint goal, and we also had uh, a few backlog items, which are essentially features that we wanted on this event page of the website. And subsequently, we had user stories attached along each of these features or backlog items. And then we move them into sprints by pushing them along a workflow up till when we have it concluded at the business analyst section and move into production by the development team. I hope I've been able to do justice now.
Yes. Yeah, your latter description, I think I'm satisfied with them. But I do mention sprints, backlog. It's obvious you've worked in that environment before, but I want final question in that area. What's the difference between a sprint backlog and a product backlog?
Okay, so all right. So like I mentioned earlier, a sprint is just a period of time set by the
sprint
team.
Backlog and product backlog.
Yes, because if for me, what was my emphasis was product backlog. So a product backlog is simply a feature that is listed out or component of the feature that is expected to be pushed into production by the team. Now, so typically that's a product backlog, but I would not understand what is a sprint backlog means.
Okay, well, that's fine. It won't affect my judgment of you. I quite understand. But well, just in retrospect, just for future, if you look at both of them are backlogs. But one is for your sprint and one is for the products. That should give you an idea. One is for all the things that need to be done for the products, but one is for the other one that needs to be done within that sprint. I think it's pretty straightforward like that. Well, I found myself, I just have just 5 more minutes with you. I've really enjoyed my time with you today, and I'm sure my colleague too, Tolulope, must be enjoying himself too. I have 2 more questions for you, so that the seats will stop being hot. I hope I'm not being too difficult for you today, because the next question is about difficult stakeholder. So tell me about a time you have to deal with a difficult stakeholder and how did you handle it? Hello?
Yeah, Mushkiro. I'm just collecting my thoughts. Okay. All right. Essentially, for someone who has background in sociology, understanding that stakeholders could be resistant, or if we say stakeholder is difficult, it's just about perspective. Because a person may be resistant to change, or may have conflicting priorities, or may look unresponsive.
Yes. Hello? Joshua, I can't hear you.
Something maybe like this. Sorry, I had a network connectivity issue.
Okay.
All right. So it's important to be empathetic. So, which is, I would not consider a stakeholder difficult. I would rather consider that perhaps I had not communicated with them, or their approach of communication, or their non-response or resistance to the change the organization is intending to do in a desired state. So what I would likely do first is to engage the stakeholder in airing their concern without trying to push my own opinions, without trying to push my own face. So it's important to first be able to get their concern, empathize with them, and acknowledge their perspective, because that way they get on board, because we need them on board. And once I've been able to do that, and I'm sure that they are less resistant to this change now, that allows me to then build good communication with them and build rapport, which, of course, can help me in maybe reviewing requirements in light of their perspectives.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Can you give an example of a time when you had to facilitate a workshop or stakeholder meeting?
Thank you. Okay, so an instance that comes to mind is on a particular project with okay, I don't want to mention the organization because it wouldn't be important here, but we had a project with a downstream oil and gas uh firm, and typically most of their projects they like it delivered within short durations, typically 2 months to 3 months. They want to start maybe an as-built project from ground and complete it in that 3 months. So if for one of these projects at a particular location in Lagos, we had to have a stakeholder engagement because at some point we felt they were not responding, or they felt that we were resistant to their requirements. So in this instance, so I organized a workshop where we had engineers, we had the supply chain people, and we had them on site. And we also had the finance team. So in this workshop, what I did was to first have every component of our process mapped out. So everybody can then mention what they think is their role. And at the end of the workshop, we were able to have a process where we get a communication plan out to know that this is how each of these teams and what they require to have a different stage of the project. So in this instance, for this workshop, what we did was have a process uh, mapped out. We mapped out a process for the project that was okay for everybody, especially the finance team, the projects, our engineering team on site. And we were also able to work with what they thought was better for them. So this way, we had lots of win-win situation at the end of the workshop where everybody agreed that, okay, this is how they wanted to get their components of the project done. And this is what they also needed in terms of information from the other teams.
Okay. Thank you very much. I said two more questions, but okay. That'll be all for me with me from me for now. Do you have any questions for us today?
Yes, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of my question is with respect to your organization. Uh, I would like to know what is your work process like, or what are the things that you require that in terms of training for your staffs that come on board?
Okay, thank you. At Rockitech, we ensure that all new employees are properly when they are onboarded, when they do the onboarding, and part of our onboarding process is training. So we try as much as possible to train you on the tools and majorly tools that you'll be using to do your work, such as we use Azure DevOps for our collaborative tool where everybody works in and see what each other is doing. I'm sure you are aware of what Azure DevOps is, but we don't want to assume that you know what it is. So we still do training for you and train you on things like Microsoft Suite, or basically everything that we need to make your work to make you effective in your work. And then also we encourage you to go on to do your certification courses that aligns with your role. In your case, weeks will be to do your BCSA foundation and practitioner course in business analysis, and every other one that aligns, and some other things that have to do with GDPR, because we'll be working with people's data. So that we do that basically. So we ensure that you are fit and ready to to do your work. That's what we do. That's the process why when we bring in new employees.
Oh, thank you so much. So just one other question will be, what will be the biggest challenges that you anticipate that I might have to prepare my mind towards when working with your organization? And also along with that, what is the definition of success for this, my current role that I'm applying for? Or
To us, we know that life is a challenge and every day comes with its own challenges. We have a cross-functional team that we work with. So, and everybody's always a fast-paced environment. We work majorly in agile. So sometimes you might find it difficult to get hold of one or two persons, but that's because everybody knows what they're doing. And so the challenges is not really about the work. It could be by maybe when you're coming on the job, it might be a new environment for you. That's why we ensure that you are properly onboarded. So we don't see it really as a challenge. It's just a normal challenge that you might face, like we're getting to any other role. But we are there to help you out if you finally you're successful in this role, to help you out to make sure such challenges will not affect your work. Okay.
okay, all right, thank you. Also, I would like to know what is the company's long-term vision, or what is the biggest project that the company would like to engage for the next year or this current year?
Right now, our company is less than 60 months old, like around 5 years. So we look in the long term to be one of the best and leading learning management system platform in IT. Right now, we're moving to implement artificial intelligence and also to implement that in our training. So we hope to be one of the leaders in artificial intelligence, and and to be leaders in that field in training majorly, and to help people to transition from other disciplines to IT and to artificial intelligence. So we hope to see ourselves from being a startup to maybe the top 10 organization in the United Kingdom in the nearest future.
Thank you so much. You've been a joy to watch, Sam.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. And I wish you success. You'll be hearing from us via email soon afterwards. Thank you. That's the end of the interview. Joshua, why are you clapping for yourself? I don't want to clap for yourself.
I'm clapping for you. I'm not clapping for you. I've been up and about. I've actually been strong, but I gave it my time that I was going to be here, and I was here. So, but then it didn't matter. Like, it's not why. Of course, obviously, I didn't like my performance. It's not, but it can get better. So I'm expecting a lot of fire for my bomb already.
Okay, that's fine. Let me give you a quick review. Um, your voice is not shaking. Naturally, you sound confident, but I noticed there are some knowledge gaps in when you're answering those questions, and that's when you start fidgeting when you don't know it. So I always tell my students, even the person asking you those questions does not know everything in the world. If that it's possible you ask me some questions now, I might not have the answer, and that's perfectly okay. Although I know there are some unforgivable things, like maybe as a business analyst, you don't know what user stories is. That could be a little bit unforgivable, but it's quite understandable. Point is this: when you are going for an interview, the reason people fidget when they go for interview, even before they start asking them questions, is because they are afraid that the interviewer is going to ask them a question that they don't have an answer to. Am I right?
Sir,
Now, yeah. So anytime you're going for an interview, have it at the back of your mind that there's a possibility that you'll be asked a question that you don't have an answer to. So, to that, have a structured way of answering a question you don't have an answer to. So that means there are two types of questions: those that you have answers to, and those that you don't have answers to. Now, you are afraid that you'll be asked questions that you don't have answer to. So if you have a structured way of attempting the ones you have answers to, and the ones you don't have answers to, then you won't forget. Now, this is how I handle questions that I don't have answer to, because I believe I don't know everything. Okay, so when I'm asked a question that I don't have answer to, I don't forget and I don't allow it to show that I don't know it. Many times I can count like around 5 to 6 times you've said, "Hey," today, "Hey," like, "Oh, they've caught me, they've got me, I'm in trouble." Without even seeing your face, I can hear that from your voice. So is that you know that I tell them, "Oh, thank you for that question." There are some questions that you've heard about it before, but you don't know what it is. There are some you've not heard about them at all. If you've heard about it before, you can say, "Oh, I have an idea, but I am not sure." If you allow me, I can give it a try. If I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong, but let me just give it a try based on what I've heard about it. You can now tell them what you know about it, just straight to the point. Don't waste their time. Don't try to bamboozle them. Don't try to say what you don't know. Just like one sentence or two, and ask them, "Am I right in that? Is that response to the one you were expecting?" They could say yes or no. That shows confidence and shows that you are willing to approach a difficult situation. One. Two, let's say you don't know the answer at all. You've never heard of it before. Just be upright, open, straight. "Oh, I'm very sorry. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm willing to do my research afterwards. I can get back to you and I give you an answer to that question after the interview. I can even send it to you via email." Okay, so it shows that areas you don't know that you are deficient, you are willing to learn. Okay, and you are taking responsibility for it. Not that you go around the bush trying to waste the time of the interviewers when obviously what you are saying is wrong. That is one. Okay, and in your answering your questions, some you showed a structured approach. Like I could notice that you are using the um star approach, but in some you were moving around, beating about the bush. Your first answer, there are some questions that you should be ready to answer in all interviews, like, "Tell me about yourself." They might not ask that question in that way. It could be, "Let's hear your experience." Oh, so, they will always ask you that question in a way. So by all means, go to the interview prepared for that question. It's obvious that today you were not prepared for that particular question. "Tell me about yourself." Okay. So always get prepared for that question, even if they said they are not going to ask you or whatever. Just step like me. If I was going to answer that question, I would say I am a certified business analyst. Like, okay, when you started, you said your name was Shegun. Then you said your name was what again? Joshua. You're a business. My name is Joshua. My name is Shegun. You don't even know what your name is again.
It was malaria that was working.
My name is Shegun. Oh, sorry, my name is Joshua. In this case, because you're not showing your camera, I would think maybe you are sitting for somebody in the interview. That's why you're not even showing your camera. Maybe you are doing interview for your brother. That your brother's name is Shegun. "Oh, my name is Shegun." "Oh, sorry, the person I'm doing interview for is Joshua. My name is Joshua." I, I can just say that I'm not taking this guy based on that. So you were a little confused. So that I normally tell my people, when you're doing interview, don't bother to tell them your name. They know your name already. They have your CV. Don't say my name is. Just go straight to the point. Just tell them who you are. Okay. So because say I could say this one I'm saying now. I'm not reading it off, and I've prepared it. So I will just say, "I'm a certified business analyst with over 5 years of experience delivering digital transformation. Okay, let me just give you the structure. Now I said let's answer be structured. Who you are, okay, your experience, the impact of your experience, and what you hope to bring, how you can replicate that in the organization, and straight to the point. Because if you don't know what you are talking about, you waste your time. Okay. Um, I'm an experienced business analyst with over 5 years of experience delivering digital transformation, process optimization, and business process ranging across industries such as insurance, housing, and e-learning. In my most recent role at AXA Insurance UK, I optimized the digital ecosystem, integrating
No,
IVRS
you know the one
system,
is
that is
talking like
interactive
that.
voice response system, machine learning, and robotic process automation, which resulted in a
Like,
20% increase in customer
what's happening? No,
satisfaction
be
and a 30% reduction in manual interventions. Prior to that, at Lloyd's Group, I enhanced their service management platform, leveraging Azure DevOps and process mapping techniques to improve delivery efficiency by 30%. In real life, I'll not be talking at this fast, okay? I'll be talking smooth. Try and take your time, but I'm just mindful of time. That's why I'm a bit fast now. So, but if I could slow down, I would say beyond my technical expertise, I'm passionate about bridging the gap between business and technology, ensuring stakeholders' needs are clearly translated into actionable solutions. I thrive in collaborative agile environments, facilitating workshops, backlog refinements, and user acceptance testing to drive successful project outcomes. Currently, I also serve as a business analysis coach at InnoEdge, where I train aspiring and experienced professionals in requirements engineering, stakeholder engagement, and agile methodologies, helping them transition into or excel in business analysis role. I'm now looking for an opportunity where I can leverage my experience in digital transformation, process optimization, and stakeholder management to drive impactful change and innovations. Does this align with what you're looking for in this role? You see, why this one works is because it is engaging and concise, not more than 2 or 3 minutes. It's engaged storytelling. It gives quantifiable achievement and it is smooth and it transitions to the role. Okay, let me give you some other ones. There are sometimes you meet a very understanding interviewer that notice that you have an idea of what you are saying, but you are missing the point. Like I asked you about user stories, and you kept saying user stories adjust, adjust, adjust. Don't whenever I ask you questions, don't say invest is just, this is just. Don't use that word just. They are just like it's something I can uh just put by the side. Adjust. No, they are not just. Okay, they are something, they are there, you know. And you were mixing let me see it again. I wrote it down, sorry.
Moscow.
Invest and Moscow together.
Oh.
You were saying Moscow is invest is, and I was trying to redirect you, help you out. Okay, so Moscow is for prioritization. Like when you say must have, should have, could have, won't have, when you use to prioritize your requirements, and invest to is used to ensure that requirements, especially user stories, are complete, are clean and testable. That's why you have, independent, negotiable, what is V? Invest,
Independence, negotiable,
valuable,
valuable, testable.
estimable, small, and testable. Okay, good. And then, please, by all means, everybody, business analyst, please go and know what user stories are. Almost everywhere they're asking user stories. Don't let them ask user stories and you're like, once he gets me. No, no, please.
Yeah.
User stories are very straightforward. Don't forget what user stories are.
And
Okay?
even engineers are writing user stories.
Yeah, asking user
All
stories.
engineers on my team now, they are writing user stories. So for a BA not to know what user
It
stories
is
are,
it's
it's
a
a
red
no-no.
flag, you know.
Engineers are that their life is they don't even, but they are now writing users, even though it's just the first description. I'm gone there to start correcting, but they are writing user stories. So
So please, user, it is a red flag if you don't know how to write user stories and acceptance criteria. Okay, please always if user stories, it's you can write user stories for almost anything. Please know how to go and write user stories and the formats. Okay. Let me see which ones again. And then I noticed when you ask the question, I'm not sure, maybe that's why you put off your camera. I don't know, maybe you are going to check it up somewhere. You pause for like 3 or 4 seconds before you answer your question. And then come out boldly, to give me the answers. Okay, I'll be wondering, maybe you have somebody giving you the answer beside you. I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
but in another place, this I was surprised when I saw this kind of result. So, good knowledge, good is like I just said, thought about the question before answering them. So I'm reading feedback from the interview that just been conducted in my organization for Scrum Masters. So one of these things that you can think about it. You can have a brief movement, and then you work with the interviewer. So this person comment as good interview, very knowledgeable and capable, might be pessimistic, fantastic answers, thought about the question before answering them and worked with us. So I think you can give it a thought, but maybe not every question that you now go. So the one you don't really understand, you can give it some minutes, not minutes, sorry, some few seconds, and then they will see that you are thinking, not that you just go blank.
Anyways, thank you very much, Joshua. That was a very good one to put yourself forward. And you are in Nigeria, obviously, and you're interviewing for a job. Try and avoid, who knows, you could get an interview in Dubai, France, blah, blah, blah. Try and avoid mentioning, except the people you're doing interview are not biased about where you are, You've done job with, what's it called? Rockitech, and Rockitech is in the UK. Okay, so mention job. There's nothing bad mentioning jobs you've done overseas. Okay.
Yeah, but again, it's what is on the CV that we relate with. If the CV they're working with have Nigerian jobs, then of course I think it's fair enough to just go. But again, you look at how everything is. But if your CV contains mainly Nigerian jobs, there's you can now transition from Nigeria and say, okay, UK. You have to your CV is full of Nigerian jobs. How come you're just mentioning UK? But if you have both, yeah, you can just juggle between them. So somebody has a question or want to contribute. Ola.
Well, I'll say that because I was assumed that he was going to use projects he did with Rockitech. Yeah. Olumide.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I just stumbled into this program and the last contributor, I thought I should just add one or two things when the business analyst attend interview. The first and the most important thing I always like to think is if you're on an interview panel, just assume they are your colleagues. Because eventually, if you have that job, these are the people you're working with on day-to-day basis. They are not robots. They are not magicians. They will eventually be your colleagues. Be yourself.
Perfect.
Have the confidence. Flow with them. Make sure you align with their thinking mechanism. Be comfortable. Come in with a very good introduction. Oh, how are you, sir? How is weather over there? Make sure you start on a very good note. Have like a breaking point, and from there, you can actually take over the interview and direct them into what to ask. And also, if you are asked question regarding to what do you do, don't give more than enough information. Just enough is enough for them. Because once you give them the high level information, maybe you talked about the project you've worked on, give the high level what the project intends to achieve, talked about the tools, the processes on a very high level. And this will trigger follow-up questions, and that is where you will nail them. So all is just for you to be confident, be yourself, because it's not even about the interview per se. As a business analyst, the expectation is for you to go out there, talk to your stakeholders, gather requirement. They really want to see your body movement. How confident are you if you are discussing with their stakeholders? Will you be able to represent their brand in a very appropriate way, the professional way? So all these things are what happens at the interview. So it's not about getting the answer right. And when it comes to questions, there's no right or wrong answer for business analysts. What they actually want to understand is, do you have a transferable skill that can be applicable in their own domain? So I think with these few points, I wish everybody success. I'm also a business analyst, a senior business analyst with over 5 years experience, and I've been on interview board. So I know exactly what they look out for. And I wish everyone success in your endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Olumide. Yes, I say it many times. I've seen some interview questions in some place I've worked, and the only thing I see the questions, I don't see the answers. Just like Olumide said, it's not that they have a specific answer they are hearing from. Of course, when they ask you about user stories, we know there's a structure, there's something they're expecting. But as he said, it's not that they have an answer that they're expecting you to say, but there's a how that they expect you to answer those questions. There's a way they expect you to comport yourself. You understand? Sometimes they are even judging, they are not even listening to the answer. They are watching, can this guy be or can this lady be part of our team? You know, they are seeing how you fit in into their team. Okay, and they are seeing, sometimes looking at the responses, your answer, your response to the questions. Not that how do you respond to a difficult question? How do you respond to something you don't know? How do you attempt it? Do you just waste our time and roll around, waste everybody's time? You know. So thank you very much, Olumide. Daring has his or hand up.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much. Antolu, been a long time. Thank you for the opportunity. So I wanted to ask, because I thought I saw Scrum Master mock interviews. I'm not sure if that's what you call this. Or because I want to know, is it business analysis questions they would ask during a Scrum Master interview?
No, it wasn't Scrum Master. It's mock interview sessions, not Scrum Master. But we have a business analyst on. That's why he asked him what line will he want to take. So he chose business analysis.
Okay, I didn't see the beginning. I just saw it now.
Yeah, he just mocked.
Joined about an hour ago. Okay, so he picked business. I just wanted to confirm that it's not that I always ask all business analyst questions during his Scrum Master.
No.
All right.
Thank you, Darren. Joshua is a business analyst.
All right.
And just to buttress what Olumide just said, my current role, the people that interviewed me when I joined, the senior manager or the senior manager, the people that interviewed me, they were part of my team. As in, we worked together. And I found out that even the person that acted as a product owner, he wasn't a product owner. Now, because of me, he has now become a Scrum Master. The same person that interviewed me, that I was jittery then, not jittery as in I found my bed. I was looking at him like, why up there? Just found out that when I joined and this thing, and there wasn't a time he was kind of stuck with the line manager that interviewed me, and I was one that came to intervene. It became something like an hostile environment for him, and that's why he's now a Scrum Master because of me, and I trained him as well. So when you go for interview, most often than every time, just see them as working colleagues or to be working colleagues, and then take it as easy as you can. But I know it's easier said than done. But try to bring yourself that these are my people that I'm going to work with. So nothing will happen. Yes, Olumide, you're do something.
Yes, please. I just thought of something again. It's just in addition to what the other speaker said about user story. Fine, all these invest acronym and the structure of the user story all those things, they are quite important. But I think the business analysis interview is much more than that. Wherever you are asked about user story, please seize the opportunity to understand what the question is. To me, I believe they just want to understand what you know about the end-to-end journey of a user story. So it's not just about limiting yourself to the definition of a user story, the attributes of a user story. They actually want to know how you elicited your requirements on a very high level, how these things are eventually turned to the technical language, which is user story, and most importantly, how you interact with the dev team, your testers, to refine the story, to estimate the story, and eventually to arrive at the definition of ready. All these things still involve user story, because the most important thing to business analysts in a solution development environment is your user story. And when you hear user story, it's the same as your requirement, it's the same as your it's just the same thing. It's all about requirement. But if you are able to demonstrate the journey of a user story from writing acceptance criteria in BDD format, both the positive and negative scenario, adding it to the backlog, refining it, estimating it, adding it to the sprint backlog, move to the sprint planning, your day-to-day activities on it, talking about the bugs, how you're able to clarify any query raised on the user story within the dev team, then I think you are good to go. Nobody will ever doubt your expertise as a business analyst. It's just to add to what someone said about the user story. So that's just the other contribution I have regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lumide. That is why it is a red flag if you don't know what user stories are at this now, So and one of the I think the Lokwewe next wants to do, or even now we could still continue till 10, is that we can bring Olumide Olakonye in as a panelist, for interviews, and then nobody's judging you right now. We are judging ourselves. So people should try as much as possible to put their self forward for interviews. The more you talk, the more confidence you get. The more you talk, the more. Sometimes what will win you the job is your confidence. Some people know what they want to say, but they are just jittering and they are just afraid. So but your confidence with your knowledge and with your presentation, everything will work well. And just like Olumide said, they want to see, because you'll be dealing with top executive, you're dealing with stakeholders. How will this person perform when we put him or her in front of maybe directors and stuff? We don't want somebody that will disgrace us. So sometimes that's what they're looking for. So we don't want to put a scrum master on for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or another business analyst. It's about pouring the oiling your engine to move. Sometimes not just the training, it's a time like this where this chance you have to talk, open your mouth. Sometimes you feel you know something. Yes, you feel it. By the time you are ready to talk about it, you can just freeze out. But if you've done it once, twice like this, yeah, you'll be fine. So, guys,
if anybody
I should mention, let me look at
I can just run through some. Yeah, we have 15 more minutes thereabout.
Yes.
Let me give it a go.
Ayobami, Temitope, Kolawole.
Yes, please.
All right.
So what are you a business analyst, Scrum Master, QA?
Scrum Master.
Okay.
Scrum Master. So let me hand it over to Tolulope then.
Good evening, Ayobami. It's good to have you on this call. Yeah, my name is Tolu. I'm a Scrum Master and an Agile coach for Rockitech. I've been here for a couple of years. I've delivered some software projects, and right now we are transitioning into AI and cloud. And I'm also managing the team and also the organizational roadmap. It's good to have you here. Can we meet you? Oh, I also have Lanre on the call, who is a senior business analyst. You'll be taking notes. So can we get to meet you?
Thank you for that. It's a privilege to be here with you this evening. And so I am a Scrum Master, and I have functioned effectively on my team, guiding them in applying Scrum principles, removing all forms of obstacles, fostering collaborative environment. And currently on my role, I've helped to manage the team, empower them, and to help organize and deliver high value product. On Scrum events, I help with Scrum, the sprint planning, daily stand-ups, sprint reviews, and sprint retrospectives. On this current role, I've worked on this current role for less than a year, and I have a senior Scrum colleague who is always there to give me guide on the role, and I've been developing really on this. And one of the reasons why I believe I could build on the residual knowledge that I have right now is why I'm applying for this role currently, so I can help function better as a Scrum Master. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you mentioned you take your team through what I would call the Scrum event. So can you guide us through how you run your sprint review?
Okay. Sprint review on a project that we are currently working on. First is to understand what exactly the sprint goal is, and to on my role, I function more like guiding everyone to know exactly if our actions so far aligns with this with the user stories that have been set, and and if what we have set out to do is what we are doing, and to actually point the team back to point the team back in the right direction if we are not going in the direction we should go. So regarding the regular sprint planning, our sprints usually last between 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the job that is at hand. And within this time frame, the product backlog item, which has been set for the particular sprint, is considered, and I ensure for every team member of the group to know what role they are supposed to play, if they have played the role, and if they are not doing it well, to point them in the direction of how to do it. And after all that, to actually estimate on the particular item that we are working on, and create a retrospective afterwards to know the strength of the team, the challenges, the weaknesses, and areas where the team need to improve on. This is how best I can explain the sprint planning. Thank you.
Okay. I asked you about sprint review, but you've gone 360 degree and you came to sprint planning. Anyway, let's let's move ahead. I can see people clapping for you. So what would you say to someone who claims that agile does not work? Is it just the same as before? What would you claim to someone who, okay, if I can ask first of all, does agile work in your own perspective? And if somebody claims agile does not work as a scrum master, what would be your response or approach?
In my experience, I would say agile works. And I'm saying this because on my team, I realize that oftentimes not all colleagues are the same, and not all colleagues are available at the time that others are. So I discovered that, and over time, I noticed that working in an agile team gives room for anyone who is available to step in, and there is this allowance for everyone to express themselves and to work at their own pace. And apart from working at their own pace, to also, I don't want to use the word cross carpet now, but if I am knowledgeable in a particular aspect and is dragging the team back, I could step in and work in that regards, just to ensure that the team's goal meets the definition of ready at every point in time. So it doesn't matter whether a business analyst is available at a particular point in time. In an agile team, anyone could step in to ensure that the job is done, really. And so for anyone who says that the agile doesn't work, I'll tell them that it does work, and it's just a matter of giving it a try and to actually know that it's something worth engaging on as a team.
Yeah, thank you for that. So while you were talking, you mentioned cross carpet. So that brought to my mind to ask you this next question. So what do you understand by a cross-functional team?
Cross-functional team. Thank you for that question. I do not have an idea, but I can give it a try. And
Okay.
I'm glad if you can point me in the direction of if I'm right or wrong. Um, Cross-functional team is more like everyone can function. Everyone in a team can function in any role. Although everyone has a office. Say for example, I am a scrum master, but on a cross-functional team, I could step in and lend a hand if there is a lag in, say for example, on the business analyst side, and it's something that I'm knowledgeable about. I could come in, lend a hand, and it doesn't mean I'm trying to overturn or overtake that role as a business analyst, but just lending a hand and then taking a backseat again to my role as a scrum master. I don't know if that's
Yes, you are on track. You mentioned some elements of, so typically a cross-functional team is a team that has the required skills and capacity to produce a common goal. So that's just like you said, it's when everyone has the combined skills to make sure that what we've committed to do, we are able to deliver it. So if for example, I'm a tester, but I have a knowledge of how to write good user stories, I will not just sit back and say, okay, no, I'm just a tester, so you go ahead and write user story. I can give a lending hand. So that's what cross-functional team is all about. So thank you for that. Quickly, because of our time, the next question I'm going to ask you is if 1 minute, how would you differentiate between waterfall and agile in 2 sentences? How will you differentiate between waterfall and agile?
okay. I'll say on a waterfall, the I'm giving it a try. I may not have a perfect response to it, but then a waterfall.
There's no perfect response.
A waterfall, thank you. A waterfall, just as the word waterfall is, it means that instructions flows down from the top down the chain of command to I'll say, for example, from the stakeholders down to the business analyst, to the scrum master, to the tester, and to the developers, or developers and then the testers in that order. There is a particular order to in which things are done on the team. Whereas on the agile team, although we know that this is our sprint goal, this is what we intend to do. However, the moment everything has been set, the work has been set out to be done, everyone comes in, putting their input on whatever developmental tool the team is using to work. They since we have a timeline, everyone comes in, put in their efforts, and just get everything as a definition of ready or definition of done. I believe that's the differentiation between a waterfall and a agile team. So for a agile team, everyone tends to monitor their work for themselves to be on top of their duty. But for a waterfall, there is more or less like a boss that is supervising, making sure that, oh, have you done this? Have you gotten this done? Why haven't you done it? Why is it being delayed? And that is the understanding I have about these two terminologies. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So,
Ayobami,
and
Ayobami,
I was,
Ayobami.
I could say maybe the last question, because of time, we don't want, unless people are happy to go on. So I want to ask you, as a Scrum Master, what do you know about impediment, and how do you help your team to settle now? So could you tell me how you might have dealt with an impediment raised by your team before?
Okay, thank you for that question. Impediment is whatever stands in the way of achieving the set goal of the team. And I'll say on my team, on the project we were working on, um, we had an issue with our developer, in which our developer just went AWOL and was incommunicative. At that particular point, the procedure I took was to reach out to another colleague who I believe had some sort of personal relationship with our developer, to reach out to our developer on that regard, just to make sure that we could get the job done at that particular point in time. So that was an impediment for us, and I was proactive on my own hand to ensure that the developer is being sorted out, just to finding out from the developer what the actual issue is, and to ensure that whatever the issue is on that end is sorted out, so that that doesn't affect eventually the result of the team, as we all work hand in hand to ensure that we get the job done. So, irregardless of, in as much as I'm considerate of what the personal issue is with the developer, I'm also considerate on getting the job done. And if he is on a good, if he is able to meet his needs, or whatever it is that is stopping him from being available for the team, it is going to help us getting back on the team and get the job done eventually in good time. So
Thank
that
you
was
for that.
thank you.
You said something. You said your developer went AWOL. So that's so what do you mean by that? But don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. So as a Scrum Master, have you how do you help your team to liaise or come in between the stakeholder and your team. So if, for example, the stakeholders are demanding more of your team than they can deliver on, how have you encountered that kind of situation before, and how were you able to assist your team?
Thank you for that question. As a Scrum Master, at a particular point when there was a high demand on the team, and it was very obvious that the team had no understanding on what is expected to be done, I stood as a liaison between the stakeholder and my team members. So having gotten a good knowledge of what the stakeholders expected, and I knew the level to which the team is currently working on, I organized a small workshop on the use of AI as a tool to actually improve on their delivery on the job. The world being global and technological advancement made it even more possible, such that certain things that we regarded as bottlenecks and issues, we were able to train ourselves on AI use to actually meet um, the knowledge gap which we had initially, to be able to carry out the expectations of the stakeholders. And in just a few sessions of training, we were able to pull through and help ourselves and spring up into the expected level of delivery that the stakeholders expected of us. Thank you.
Right. So that would be all from me. So I don't know if my colleague has any question, or otherwise, just want to know if you have any question for us.
Just one question for me from a business analyst that's in particular about that. So how do you support business analysts in backlog refinement?
To ensure that the backlog the backlog item is achievable. If the backlog item is not achievable, I point it out to the business analyst that what you have set out to do is somewhat cumbersome. Can you make it as simple as possible? Make it basic, not cumbersome, straightforward, and something that is achievable within this time frame of the sprint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just a pointer. Before you go, one of the questions you answered, difference between waterfall and agile. Tolulope actually in two sentences. I think there are many ways you can differentiate them, but the major one is about the approach to projects, about delivery. You can say waterfall is sequential and linear, while agile is iterative and
That's just
incremental.
solves it all. That's why I said in two sentences. That just to capture it. One is sequential, which is waterfall. Another one is iterative. Yeah. And again, you need to be conversant with some of the terminologies of the space you are working in, so that you can speak the language. And then when I first started interview, I was just like this, too much words to describe one particular thing. When I asked you about sprint review, you went 360 degrees for the sprint plan. Just the sprint review, what you do on maybe before that day, you try to ensure that the stakeholders that will have impact are going to attend the meeting, and then you set it up and then what you do at the sprint review is very minimal as a Scrum Master. So don't beat yourself about it. You just start the meeting. Okay, for example, my sprint review, I don't do anything rather than sometimes they will start the meeting and the pro owner, everybody just talk. I just stay behind, take some notes if there's anything, because I know my line manager will later ask me, Tolu, what did you catch? other than that, they just do the talking. They showcase what they have done. I just make sure that the environment is set. So you don't do anything much on the sprint review. So it's, even the sprint planning is also the developer and the product owner. So you need to be concise with how you answer question. Too many words to describe one particular thing can lead you into and let's just talk it. Yeah, so that's for me. And also you continue to use the word manage. You don't manage team, you support. As a scrum master, you are not a manager. You are not a manager. Don't use the word. If you go throughout the scrum guide, they never mention the word manage. You don't manage it, you don't manage, you support. You support. That's why a scrum master does not throw under the bus. As much as possible, you try to make sure that the whole thing we're going along, and then you support, and yes, cross-functional, and then you don't use such word as your developer went AWOL. You don't use
Away
negative
without official leave.
when you're on the interview. You try to be positive. For example, you can't talk bad about your former company and this. So also you can't say your developer went home just like that. I don't think it's right to me. I don't know if anybody anybody on the calls I agree with that. So other than that, I think we are all working in progress. So learn to speak specifically to the question you are asked, and then try to cut it within time, because every other question should at least 2 minutes. So well done. Thank you for putting yourself forward, Kate. And that's for the Scrum Master. We'll do
And I like
this.
your smile. You kept on smiling throughout, which is good.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. So I think Ellen said she wants to put herself forward. Ellen, yeah. It's our time not up.
Our time is up, but I don't know if people. Our time is up. We don't want to. We are Scrum team here. We don't want to, because we said it's always from 8 to 10. We don't know if we can do this next month. Let me see our calendar. We can do this again next month. Sorry, give me 1 minute or 1 second.
Ellen,
I think we can do this first week in April 2nd. There's somebody on that. Ikelomo PMO, people, do you have the sheets, please, that we see? Anyway, we can do this next month again, but we'll look for the Wednesday, because first Wednesday is taken. Our second Wednesday is for games. And maybe the third Wednesday of next month, we'll see what we can do. So please, we want more people. Thank you, Olumide, for sharing the insight. Please, we want you to keep coming. Want to enjoy your perspective as well, and everyone who has contributed. Thank you, Darren, for bringing up the Scrum Master issue. Thank God, and then somebody stood up for the Scrum Master. Maybe next time it should be you or even me. So the question I asked, so for the Scrum Masters, these are questions from my organization. I don't know. I want to believe people don't know where I work here. So these are the questions that were asked at the real job interview, not this thing. Have you experienced anyone attempting to sabotage an agile squad? Can you tell us how they went about it and what you did to counter them? So if you take that down, could you tell me how you might deal with an impediment raised by your squad? In less than 2 sentences, can you describe the key difference between waterfall and agile? That's question number 2. What would you say to somebody who claims that agile doesn't work? So those are real questions from real interview that people have been scored, and some of them are working now. They've started work as of last week. So that's some of the insight. And this is what they said. Let me see. Positive indicators as that the person has taken steps to find out about the organization and role, can provide a good explanation for why they are interested in this role. Role fits into their career as aspiration and motivation, has a convincing explanation of why they want to move on, are aware of the development areas, has a convincing explanation of existing role and situation, and has an example of actively done what person is saying. And one of the feedback for somebody was that he was giving textbook answer. Let me see. Nice color. Somebody has okay, good. Real. Somebody has this real energy and enthusiasm. Interacted well with it, good knowledge, good great answer. Lack any energy. Okay. Unconvincing answer, as if he was reading from the book. So please, let's work on ourselves so that we come across as one who has done the job. It's a matter of doing the job now, and then your personality that will get us there. So thank you again for coming. And just before we go, so people have been asking, and our PMO, they've been working. So I just want to share my screen. We're going to start what we are known for. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share. So our next cohort of practical hands-on session is starting on the 7th of April. We'll be sharing. So the PMO, they just finished meeting on this just this evening before this session. So we'll be sharing this on the larger Rockitech Telegram platform, and some individuals that have contacted us, be sharing it with them. So when it comes, you can feel it. So we're going to start on the 7th of April, and we are going to work on a brand new website for one of our sister company. So it's going to be a greenfield project. So Scrum Masters, developers, business analyst, product owner, yeah, and want to go, if possible, security, AI, everybody, you're all welcome to join. So that's it. We'll share this for this section. So that's it from me, from us.